have a nice early chat with all the keeners.
I'm ready. I think of myself as a keener.
I'm a keener.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, all 25 of y'all we were just talking about all the keeners that want to tune in early and get early access to this discussion. Welcome, 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 everyone, to may's Social Club. Carmen's been on a little bit of a PTO the last few days. Hey, Eric. Thanks for being in the chat. Carmen's been on PTO for the last couple of days. Carmen, how are you feeling? Tell us all your emotions.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you just a couple minutes ago that it's been nice, but I also get anxious when I don't work, when I'm not on Slack. Something about the distance from Slack starts to give me like hives,
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying is an admirable quality, but I'm just being real with you.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this in our prior conversation, but it just takes like a couple of days to actually like decompress.
Yes.
I'm not going to check my phone. I'm not going to check my work updates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I know. I think there should be more of like a protocol. Like first, you have to like go through a few like steps or like a few layers to fully like extract yourself from the Slack.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Yeah.
For everyone tuning in, say where you're coming from. We want to know all the things. Are you from Canada? Are you from the States? Are you from across the world? I don't know. I want to know where you're coming from, where you're working. Feel free to even drop your LinkedIn links in the conversation so we can connect with each other. So good to have you all. If you're here for the first time, I wanted to say welcome. This is our monthly social club chat. We bring on panelists that are well-versed in the world of social media and marketing to chat about a theme. And this month's theme is SMM. You mean more like social media mogul. And the reason for that is because social media managers these days are taking on so much more than just what we did like even 2-3 years ago. The role is changing so fast, and it's a wild one. It's a fun one, but it's a wild one. So we're going to be chatting all about that today. We have some awesome panelists joining us, which we will intro in a bit. And of course, we have Carmen leading the conversation today. So super excited about that. I want you to clock into the chat with an emoji that describes your workday so far. And if your boss is also in this chat, maybe like use a better emoji.
I'm looking where everyone's from, and there's so many New York, but then somebody also said what you and me called rally, but we learned recently is Raleigh.
Raleigh.
So we've been schooled. Hi, Renee from Raleigh.
And Denver. So fun. I'm just going to pop in with a few bits of housekeeping before. I like that these emojis are coming, and we have a yawn. We have a movie from real.
The cowboy happy face I like because it can mean so many things. I always think it means kind of like, hey, I'm whimsical.
Howdy, partners. My emoji, we have an eye roll from Caitlin, LOL.
Oops, we got a skull.
Oh no, guys, it's Wednesday. It's okay. It's hump day. Thursday, the emojis will be a bit better. I just want to do a bit of housekeeping quickly before we get to introducing the panelists. So this webinar will be recorded and will be sent to your inbox. So if you have to leave 30 minutes because you have another meeting or like you're stressed about missing the end of the conversation, we'll send this into your inbox tomorrow morning. And if you want to ask a question to any of our panelists, we'll be doing a question answer period at the very end. And if you do ask a question, you will be entered into a giveaway to win a gift card. So we will be announcing the giveaway winner at the very end of the conversation. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, if you have any questions, I'll be in the chat room. I can answer them. And then if you just like have a casual question, we might just put it on screen at the end because it's relevant to our conversation, or we may answer it during the conversation as well. Anyways, that's all for today. Let's get to our panelists because that's who you're all here for. I'm going to go. See you at the end, and have a good one, Carmen.
Okay, great. So Piero's going to get all of our lovely guests on the screen. We have Katie Parks, Jayde Powell, Michael Corcoran. I'm going to have you three introduce yourselves because I've realized that it's like we need to go through the reps of introducing who we are, what we're working on. So I'll say, introduce like your name, where you're working right now, what you're working on, and then just as like a sort of icebreaker, I want to know what side of TikTok you're on right now. I'm going to start with you, Michael.
Ooh. Hi, everyone. Michael Corcoran here. For some might know me as the dude who did the thing at Ryanair with some really other crazy people. And I'm kind of low ego enough to know that there's probably a lot of people who don't have a clue about it either. I run Slice, which is a consultancy of sorts. I have took a lot of my learnings from my brand days, agency days, and Ryanair days to really try and fix the messy middle that is social media, from your C-suite stakeholders right down to your execution talent. My job is to try and make people think more strategically and then try and figure out how the hell do we build a better operation to make this shit work. What side of TikTok am I on? I'm on Deja's side of TikTok right now, and I am loving it.
Nice. I feel like learning what side of TikTok you're on tells me a lot about your algorithm, and I find that interesting. Okay, Jayde, you're up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jayde Powell. I am a social media strategist from Atlanta, Georgia, but currently in New York. I have been working in marketing and advertising for 13 years, started brand and agency side, and then have since been running my own agency. It's funny that you were also an airline, Michael, because I used to work at Delta, not competing airlines, but we love the airline industry. And I now work as a freelancer. So I work with agencies only. I freelance with agencies on their social teams and come in to support where needed on their client work. And I've been doing that for the past about 4 years, and have also been growing my own presence on LinkedIn, where I post about the creator economy, social media marketing, and entrepreneurship.
Amazing.
Oh, and on my side of TikTok, I would say I'm really loving Olandria content right now, or Nick Olandria content, which is really funny because I don't actually watch Love Island or Love is Blind, whatever show it's from. I don't watch it, but I love them as a couple. Very obsessed with them.
I feel like I never watched Love is Blind, not because I'm like morally superior. I just have no attention span. And I never watched it, but I knew everything that happened because I just watched the clips on TikTok. So like I kept abreast of the details just from my feed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Katie, you will round us up here.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie, and currently the director of social and community at Apollo.io. Previous to that, I jumped agency side for a little bit and got to work with some cool B2C brands that I've never worked with before, big Canadian banks and grocery stores, running social content and just kind of content more broadly, video and all kinds of different things. And prior to that, I spent about 6 years at Shopify, also leading social and video content. So most of my background has really been in B2B. So I think, the question around what side of TikTok I'm on right now is that I spend way too much time on LinkedIn because that's where our primary audience is, and that we have deprioritized TikTok as a channel. And so I haven't actually spent a ton of time on it. So I am no TikTok land right now.
Okay, you're on the thought leadership side of LinkedIn.
I'm in the cringe LinkedIn, like should stop opening this app because it's driving me insane moment in time. So yeah.
We're all there. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn all the time too. I kind of think of TikTok and LinkedIn as my like polar opposites that I, mix together.
Yeah, I probably should mix it. It would probably make my brain feel
I
better.
do think there's something about like when one drives you crazy, the other feels like respite, and then you kind of just do this and goes back and forth. So yeah, but they're two very different kinds of feeds for sure. Okay, so I'm going to kick us off. We're talking about this sort of move today from, maybe a decade ago, social media managers and teams being almost like an external comms function to now these like in-house sort of agency roles. Let's start off with this sense. The job description for a social media manager in 2026 reads like this unicorn posting. I feel like the only reason that unicorn, the actual word, isn't used in these job descriptions anymore is because you'll get in such shit for it. But, it's like writer, director, video editor, strategist, on camera, talent. At what point did this become the expectation for social media roles? And more importantly, why is this suddenly the expectation? Jayde, I'm going to lob this to you first.
Yeah, I think I started kind of noticing that shift when Reels on Instagram and TikTok video kind of became a lot more popular and more of a request from brands. It's interesting because I think when I was starting in social, which was around like 2013, I feel like a lot of content creation as we know it now, or the request for content as wasn't really that different, because there was still a lot of like copywriting and designing of graphics that you had to do to create content for your social channels. I just think now it has expanded to where social media managers are sometimes expected to be the on-camera talent now. And again, I think that came about with the rise of TikTok and Instagram Reels. When I was in my last full-time role in 2021, I was the head of social at this beverage startup based in San Francisco. And that was actually my first introduction into camera front-facing work. I was creating reels for our Instagram account. We had a community manager on my team who was also creating TikToks for our TikTok account. She was public facing, I was public facing. And then we were also hiring creators and influencers for a lot of our brand campaigns. But it's interesting because I think at that time, because it was so new, there was this set expectation that, well, if you're on the social team, that's the work that you should be expected to do. But I think now we're realizing, like, just because someone is a social strategist, a social media director, or social media manager, doesn't also mean that they should be front-facing talent. And also, those roles require a little bit of different expertise and skill set. Not everyone needs to be on camera, no shade to anybody, but it is a skill set that requires a level of talent that we can't assume that our strategists or directors or managers automatically have.
Yeah. And also just not everyone's comfortable with it. Like I feel for, the New York Times journalists who are being told now, like, okay, we'd like you to make short videos. And just like, if that was my position, I'd probably be like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not what I've built my career doing. But it's also interesting that this idea that it's almost like structural, like when the UX of the platform changes, then the job description of the social team has to follow. I saw you nodding, Michael. Do you have what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, look, I agree. I think the speed at which all these new formats have appeared across our platforms and the introduction of the new platforms has increased the scope of what we were trying to do. And if you were to look back in the original days, yeah, it looked like a sustainable role and self-contained in what we were doing based on the simplicity of the platforms, image-led, copy-led. We worked really well. But with the acceleration of video, the acceleration of more platforms, everybody else outside of social has just not caught up with the understanding of how much work it takes and the craft that's needed. Now, I think we need to put our hands up too. I don't think we've done a good job of building the respect for how much effort and work and craft and how it needs to go down. And I think we're at a stage in the journey where we've got to make some better decisions, because everyone outside of social, what they do now is spilling within these platforms, from TV quality shows to SEO to live. All of the functionalities of the wider marketing team now exists in social. And whether it's physically in the output or what you make spills onto the platforms, it is all tied together. And like a big bomb of a question that like has dropped with me, and a question I've asked before, is it actually time to recouple the social media team back into the wider marketing department? And what do I mean by that? Because for every specialist role in these platforms, there already exists a professional working in marketing elsewhere that needs to know how to do it, but in the lens of social. And I do still think there's a need for maybe social media teams, but not all social media teams need to be built in the same way. And I think we're guilty of copying and pasting that and just looking and building it based on what others do, rather than looking at who am I as a brand, what size is the team, what are our most dominant channels, where are we investing our marketing, and then what is our strategy, and then build our organization off the back of that. And I take Slate, for example. I think you guys are really boxing clever. The product lives and breathes in the formats that we are in. You have a marketing team that is very social first. I wouldn't call you a social team. I would call you a marketing team. And your dominant channels are social, and the skills and the people that you've brought in to bring it to life lives in that space.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I even wonder, like, and you and I were sort of chatting about this, like, it is social marketing in some companies. I feel like it's almost like a kind of entertainment function, which is, I don't say that in a negative way. I think it can be quite a positive thing, but I feel like, there's a lot of questions around, like, does social still just like always fall under marketing and brand, or is it this other island that needs to be built up with like its own sort of infrastructure?
And I think like your business, your brand and your business will dictate that. I think there's probably a lot of brands out there that probably need to actually operate closer within the marketing team. And you know what that might lead to? More respect for the platforms, more support in people to actually do work in this world. But we're trying to protect it for some reason and be on our little island, like you mentioned. And I think I used a series of Love Island memes in the past to actually, bring this to life. Is it time to recouple? And I think that's determined on too many factors. I think we're trying to still build teams, still ask for more investment, where the bigger question might be is, where does social sit in your wider marketing decision and your outputs? And then if so, build your team based on that and really start respecting the role of what these platforms do. Because we all know this is where it all happens. People make TV ads now to get attention. So people talk about the TV ad on social. People do PR. People do it at home. People do all of these things to win the attention where the attention is most. And where is all the attention right now? On these platforms.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like all of you here have, orchestrated or participated in what I'm going to call like a proper shoot, with a set and a shot list and all of those things that aren't just like somebody taking their phone in an office and shooting like a little clip or something. But I'm sort of curious, like, should we be putting social media professionals in these seats and expecting them to master this skill set? Or is this like is this level of execution really the role of a producer? Katie, I'm curious about your perspective here because I feel like you have unique experience on sets, but then also leading social.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And what's interesting is I think you could take it from both perspectives. I think it obviously always comes down to the person's experience, right? But for context, like when I was building out our team at Shopify, the roles that I would hire for were actually called like social media producer or like content producer. And most of the time, actually, they were just called senior producer. And really what that meant is like, it's your job to tell a story across multiple different platforms, right? Like I think the job description also has to reflect, to your point, Michael, like the shift that we are seeing. And the shift really happened like in 2022, 2023, right? Like as TikTok grew and rose, but also as blogs became less relevant because people were not going there. And now we're seeing site traffic like completely tank. And so, the role of social is not really social anymore. Like the team is a content team. It's a production team. And I think there are some people who have become experts at that who came into those roles through social. And so I don't want to discount that. Like you can be a really strong, let's say, social media manager or strategist who just so happens to also be great on camera, can write an awesome script, can go film stuff and go edit. Like you can shoot, edit, you can do it all, right? But I think more and more people, are coming also from completely different backgrounds and avenues. And like that strength of like, the fact that I did spend time in film, I think is really helpful. I know how to kind of take a story and break it down and say like, okay, we're going to need to shoot this part first and then that part, right? And if we don't do this part first, then it's not going to work, right? Like that kind of mind mapping of how you need to actually shoot something in order to get the story across and get the edit really that you want. Or like, even yesterday I did a bunch of customer interviews that were remote and I'm thinking of this montage video that I'm going to make. As the producer of that, I need to be like both present and in the future while I'm having those conversations, right? And I think that skill set is pretty rare, or like something that you can't kind of teach. Like it is just have to be done through real hands-on learning and development. And so the people that are just creating, and that could take many different forms, like that's where you're going to get the best people for this job, right? And so I think it can still come from both places. But yes, if you have a background in it already, you have a bit of a leg up for sure.
Yeah. The point on there are gems within the world that can have the perfect mix of all skill sets, and they're few and far between. But I think when you see brands who have them and who are very lucky to get them, I think that creates a falsehood, an expectation for both the hirer and everybody else. And again, I was thinking about this yesterday and I was about to put something on LinkedIn, but I was probably being too harsh, but there is some truth in it. Like social has created this huge demand for really great creative people. But if we're really honest with ourselves, there's not enough really great creative people out there to meet the demand of what every brand needs right now. And that's down to a lot of other creatives who don't know social live over here who could who could fill that void by the
Great
right
point.
training. Or that doesn't mean like B or C player creatives can't be better by working together. But what's missing is the system to do that. But yeah, look, I completely agree. I think that creates this falsehood. But we're also talking a lot about just the content as well. But like, it is the vessel for a lot of what we do. But what there's like, social is so fragmented in all the things it can provide for you, that there is that need for the special skills. So when you look at search and you look at the growth of search in these platforms, you know, somebody who's good creatively is kind of needed in that vein to make the content that can be optimized. But there's a lot of technical things that are required to build search capabilities from the lessons we learned of the past in social. Is a very particular skill set. And same with live broadcast. Like, all these things have become so detail oriented and so specific in skill. You're never going to get a single person or a team of two people who will possess all of this. You might have a few, but as we said, I think it's a falsehood that everybody believes that it's out there. And I think a lot of people have to wake up to that, and we have to try and fix it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's been interesting to kind of see this even on agency side, because I think with agencies, to your point earlier, it's really going to be a bit about the needs of your client. And I often say, like, I'm going to be whatever the agency needs me to be. As I think holistically, while I do position myself as a social strategist or a social creative, my skill set will cater to whoever the agency, you know, is hiring. And I'll give the example. I remember one year I was hired on as a creative director for Publicis. And it was funny because while I'm not a creative director in the traditional advertising sense, the work that was required needed a social lens and social expertise. So that's why I was brought on the account. So I spent my entire time designing storyboards, writing copy for TikTok ad concepts, because they needed a social expert to come in and say, this is the type of content that will look really good on social and perform well on social. Whereas on the other hand, I'm at another agency and I'm in their writer's room, but writing tweets and Instagram captions and text-only posts for threads. So yes, a writer, yes, a creative director, but holistically, my lens is social. So that's where I need to show up as. And I think it is a challenge when you are trying to position yourself in an industry where everyone needs so much from you and needs all these different things, and you can't necessarily be everything to everyone. So I often tell other freelancers, especially when you are looking for opportunities in the world of social, try not to get too caught up in the job titles and just focus on what they actually need you to execute on. And if that's something you can do, run with that.
Yeah. Something you brought up, Katie, that I thought was like, resonated with me is this sense that like maybe a secret weapon in B2B where you work is hiring people who don't have a B2B background, or recognizing there are all these other, made me feel less like a fish out of water, because I don't really have a B2B background. I spent the majority of my career in B2C and then crossed over into tech quite recently. But it's like, I want to hear more about why we should expand our, let's say, like mental image of the perfect social hire. And it's like, obviously you're all giving me reasons, but it's like almost like a thought exercise. And maybe, you were saying that you recently hired a couple of people who didn't have B2B experience, and you felt like it was they were such Swiss Army knives for you guys at Apollo.
Yeah, what's fascinating is actually both of them did have B2B experience. It's just they also have additional experience outside of that. It was really important. So one hire I made recently, her name's Alicia. She came from like 1Password. So she'd spent time in B2B, but she'd also spent time at like banks and other B2C, but she is an influencer herself. She has like a 15K following on Instagram. Was like crazy popular book talk, person. And having that creator first lens is really helpful in B2B, because you want to spice it up. You want like it to feel human. You want to take a different approach, entirely to the content, especially on channels like Instagram and TikTok in particular, but also pushing places like LinkedIn in new directions, right? And taking that very like self-driven, like self-filmed content. Like, she is great on camera. She's super comfortable. She knows how to write a great script and a great hook. So like all of that is a huge plus, right? And has lent itself really well for B2B. The other woman I hired was from B2B, but actually in sales. So I worked with her back at Shopify, but she was on the sales team. Her name's Brianna Chapman, and Apollo sells to sellers, right? Like our core ICP personas are CROs, VPs of sales, sales managers. And so the fact that she's like lived and breathed that experience, but also had a ton of community building experience herself through like Facebook groups, but also has an Instagram account. She has a great following on LinkedIn as a creator herself. So like, that's what I mean about this hiring of like trying to find the outside, but then also understanding the business side still. Like finding that sweet spot is really hard. And I think, you know, I even have that to a degree myself where like I was working in independent film and like making short films outside of work while I was also working at, you know, a university making content for them. And so, you know, and then that transitioned into a role at Shopify. But I don't think, you know, only having one is like the least ideal, right? Because I have hired people in the past who were like pure filmmaker and they really struggled to understand the business side or like get really mad when I say like, you have to dumb this down. This script is too fancy. We don't need to bring a whole crew for this. We're going to shoot it on an iPhone. Like, so there's a tension, a healthy tension, I think, that is required between, you know, understanding how to get scrappy and like make the best content possible that's going to have the highest ROI for the least amount of cost, but then also knowing like when and where are the best opportunities to spend money and invest further and bring a whole team and make it a real commercial and like, you know, connect those dots to the revenue side of the business. And I think that's why for me, like hiring people with that balance who kind of like understand the world of both was like really unique and special and has like really helped our team thrive. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I think that it's like not a huge surprise why having like a varied work history would make you an asset somewhere. You know, you're obviously able to pull from all sorts of things that you've done. And I really liked what you said, Jayde, about just like, you know, you don't think of yourself necessarily as a creative director, but yes, as a creative director with a social lens, absolutely.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to what Jayde, you said about like you position yourself as a strategist, but you can also lean in and wear these different hats depending on what is needed. And I think that's ultimately what you want are like these storytellers ultimately, right? Who can go, yeah, I can go film that myself in my basement and get a video to you by end of day, but then I can also take on something greater. You know, I can write a long form article that's going to get turned into a Reddit post and then an Instagram carousel and all this other stuff. And I can have that perspective like across channels too, and lean into whatever is needed, I think is really helpful.
I think what I pull from that as a really important thing that is also the gap here is it's us being more seasoned marketeers or all around marketeers to understand how everything works. And the big in the room here is the absence of actually marketing education for social media professionals. Now, I think that's incredibly important as a person to know and understand the wider of how everything works. The fear, though, is we're going back around full circle into encouraging people to have all those skills, to have the ability to do them. And we're going back into the self-containment of a smaller social team who can do everything. And it's really not going to push us forward to get the resources we need to do better work. Now, again, that has to be caveated by if you're a startup and they don't have big marketing budgets, you have to then build. But then you're thinking your priority of channels, how you build your team will all get that forward. But I think what calls out there is the absence of market. And it feels like for all of us and those that are doing really well in this space are almost self-trained here. We've gone through all the different kind of paths of and roles and careers of social to become more seasoned and more rounded as marketing people in our space. And it has benefited us deeply. But I imagine there's a lot of people in their early days starting out here who could bypass that if there was the right form of education there. And we know there's social marketing degrees that are going on. We know there's marketing courses, but they just don't hit the muster right now when it comes to actually giving what they need. It's almost like we need an MBA for social media that just does not exist.
Yeah. I have kind of like two questions and I can't figure out which one is the first one to ask here, but it's like, I'm going to try this one. So like, I think when we are talking about this move towards like this in-house agency model, I think we're really talking about is just building teams. You know, like for so long, social media managers have been these like party of one, solo marketers. And really what we're saying is like, yeah, you need to build out a team. And I think that like a question for a lot of people that we get, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking in this call right now is like, how do you get that buy-in, you know? And I feel like I don't want to focus too much on this. Like, I think sometimes, like, Michael, I feel like you've spoken to this, like, sometimes social media teams get a little too lost in like, nobody understands the power of social. Nobody gets it, you know? And it's like, okay, sure, that can be true. I still think we have to like learn how to advocate, but like, you know, let's think a little more practically. What does it look like now for people who are in this webinar who are like, yeah, I get it, I'm bought in. How do we bring that to like a, you know, the leadership level?
Yeah, to me is again, I could talk on this for days yet again, but I'm I have been quite harsh and quite straight talking on this for a while. I think there's a catch-22 here. I think the C-suite know the big opportunity, but aren't willing to give it the respect that we deserve to try and push this forward. But again, the line is, I think we have to earn the respect. And I again, for the majority of what I see, and this is experience too, we do not do a very good job of being serious in a room talking about our work.
Mm-hmm.
This is not to detract having fun. We are very privileged to work in social media as grown-up human beings and get paid for it. How fucking cool is that? But at the end of the day, we need to be respected. You've got to earn it by talking brand and business and trying to build a good business case for why you should invest. Because at the moment, sadly, and I know it's a hard truth, all the yes girl people jumping on trends, behaviors, and all of that, it's comforting, but it's not helping us. And we need to start earning our respect by playing like every other marketing professional who are held to account by measurement, thinking, and brought under the coals. We're judged on whether we make a thing go viral or not. Yeah. And can you see how frustrating that can be then when you go ask for more budget or more people and why you're constantly told no? It's because we don't do that enough. And again, it's the education side, but it's also fighting the Ks. And that's really, really important here. And I think we need to, as an industry, probably fight back a bit more in the right way to earn it and then earn it in the room.
Yeah, totally.
I
mean, you go.
I also think there is something to be said about like, it's funny because we are marketers and we know our entire job is like knowing our audience, and that equates to like your audience internally as well. So the executives that you report to, the executives that you have to show a proof case, you have to know who they are and what they care about, right? And it's great because I've seen this firsthand. I remember one of the brands I used to work for earlier in my career, I was able to bring them $20,000 in sales through a social media giveaway that I did, which is not something that they asked me to do. It was just like an additional component of the campaign that I was running. And literally no one cared because they were like, girl, that's not the product that we were focused on anyway. And I was like, oh. But had I asked those questions and, you know, said, hey, like, what are the goals, you know, for the next quarter? What are we trying to work towards? Who do we want to push our consumers to? They probably would have gave a fuck, you know? But I say all that to say that, you know, when you are talking to decision makers, it's kind of like you can't think of them as this kind of like Goliath and you're David and you're like, I have to shoot them down with my little pebble. It's like you really have to think of them as a partner and think of yourself as a strategic thought partner and say, hey, based on my skill set, the recommendations I have based on what I know about what we're working towards, this is what I think needs to go. This is what I think needs to happen. And you have to be okay with the fact that sometimes they're not going to get it and sometimes they're not going to say yes. So in those cases, you know, I like to do what I like to call like micro dosing the movements. So basically, I'll give an example. I was working with an agency on an account and the client was like really not interested in threads, but I knew in my research and my understanding of the platform, if they went on threads, they would do really well there. So what I did was like in existing brand campaigns that we were already prioritizing and focused on, I started saying, hey, here are some text only, you know, options for this type of content that we can also post on threads in addition to everything we do. And I just recommend like a couple of, you know, text only posts, like 3 to 4 that we publish every week. And they were like, okay, let's try it. And then once we saw the engagement, I'm like, hey, here's a report of all the engagement that we got from this campaign. And then they saw the proof case. So sometimes it's just like they need to see the tangible evidence of why something is working before they'll sign off on it.
Yeah, I was going to echo that too, that like sometimes I think this is a role where it kind of sucks. And then sometimes you have to prove the thing a little bit with an experiment and then show the results. Or say like, hey, I tried this instead of that. I'm going to deprioritize that. Like the one thing I wanted to add is like saying no is extremely powerful. And I think we know enough as social media teams. We take all these requests, especially like if you're an internal organization, you say, yeah. Because people are so used to going like, hey, can you promote this on social? Or hey, can you share this on social? And I think the more that you go like, no, that's not part of our strategy. No, sorry, here's why this doesn't fit in this content pillar. No, that's not the right fit for this channel. Or your executive asks you to do like 3 different things. You should go back to them and say, what out of these 3 things is the most important? Put the prioritization back on them, because then they start to realize, oh, I'm asking a lot of this team. Oh, this team is not a lot of people. Oh, I'm realizing that like I need to give them direction and help them understand like what is the most important thing for the business. And that's also where you learn what is most important for the business. And then you can start telling the story internally of how you prioritize the thing that was most important for the business. And here's what it did for the business. And so like saying no is really powerful, but also like to your point, Jade, experimenting and then showing and not telling is sometimes also required. And like those things I think are a bit intermixed. Like you have to be able to set prioritization properly, I think, especially when you have a tiny team. And that is also where you earn respect. You're not going to earn respect if you just are like a yes person and then do everything shittily. Like that's not going to go anywhere. And I also think you do need to change, and Michael, you kind of touched on this a little bit, the way that you talk about your success. Like executives don't really care about impressions and engagements. What they care is like, are you helping this team define a category? Are you gaining more brand mentions? Is the value actually increasing? Like, are you getting people to say the things about the brand that you want them to say? And can you show that in real numbers? Like social listening here is also like incredibly powerful in what I've noticed in helping me get more resources for my team. Like look at what we were able to do with a small team in this shift. If we add more people to this and we're able to drive that narrative further, we will 10x this, right? And that's actually what we need people to do. We need to change the perception of our company. And here's what I need in order to keep doing that and keep this trend going.
But what you've done is brought the receipts first.
Exactly.
Because most things we struggle to do, we go, we need more people and we need more budget. Why?
Yes.
And sometimes if you're not set up strategically or operationally right, you're actually going to create an even bigger problem that's probably going to undermine what you're doing. 2 things that really stand out there that are brilliant to me is, no, I completely agree. We have to be grown up enough to say no to things, but you don't have to do it in a combative way. And this marries Jade's point really, really well. You have to know internal politics and how to play the game. And it means that when you look at what do I really need to achieve here to win as a brand, if I do 80% of that, but do 20% of playing with what they need to see and do, and again, play the politics and whatever agenda they have for social, and do that, now you're on a journey of getting the bulk of it to where you need to go to prove that it can work and keeping them happy. So like you can do the no, play the game, and it doesn't have to feel competitive. Because I saw somebody comment there in it to say, how do we do it without losing our job? Well, that's the politics of what you need to do. That's the game we got to play here. And sometimes if you are at a point in your career where just nothing is changing, there's 2 things you can do. And I know this sounds bold. You can do it and ask for forgiveness, or you just need to leave.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, I feel like though a lot of what the 3 of you are saying right now is like, here's how to have like kind of, I don't know what to call it, executive fluency or something, or like executive presence, you know. And Michael, you're saying like, it's almost like we need like an MBA. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, it makes me think of, I don't know if you know Grace McCarrick, she's on TikTok and Instagram. She talks about soft skills and she teaches soft skills to big corporations and stuff. And I think a lot of what she does is quite impactful on teams because she's teaching them everything you're saying right now. Like, how do you actually get a point across, and how do you, provide those receipts that an executive team cares about? Like, I think that there's so many layers to what you're saying that I wish we could teach in a course. I mean, maybe the three of you should teach a course that is just this, but it's like, you know, I
I was
think
gonna say, why don't you Slate should do it?
Don't worry, I've been looking to cook it, and again, if I can get the people to work on it with me, I would love to do it. It's something I've been pitching for quite a long period of time. If anybody's familiar with Mark Ritson and his marketing MBAs, we need an MBA for social media, and soft skills are part of that because it's the negotiating game. One word I use, it's ladybird. And it was the feedback I got from a C-suite that I learned the hard way, because we all think marketing, we think marketing fluff, marketing words. We have to prepare our material, go into a room, these senior people, and plumose them with marketing language. I got stopped in my tracks by a CEO, and he said, listen, enough of the fluff. I need ladybird English. If you can explain this to me like a ladybird reading book for a 5-year-old, I will understand this more, because they don't have enough time on this. This is 30 minutes once a quarter or once a half where you meet these people. And most times an over-engineered deck or over-engineered words is not going to win them over. So if there's one word that wins every time in these rooms, is ladybird.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think in North America it's ladybug, but I love it. Okay, I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here. This is a half-baked theory a little bit for me, but I feel like in the past 5-ish years, social media was kind of dominated by pattern disruption. So successful social media accounts or successful brands at social media would publish new and increasingly unhinged content to really like grab attention, and that's how you won. But more recently, I sense that the best teams are prioritizing distribution. So like clipping, these like clip farms, podcasting, even just like sponsoring fan accounts. Like there's like all these new channels that people are finding. And I'm kind of wondering, like, does turning into distribution experts mean we're becoming less creative or just more savvy? Or like, what do we think right now about this split between distribution and creativity?
I think you need both, but again, I think you need disciplined people who understand both. I think it's a big opportunity, because right now the feeds are built on newsjacking, news cycles, outrage, sensationalism, and what we deem as trends. And the only reason why that's happening is because the platforms want to keep the attention of us, the people who want our dopamine hit every so often when we're binging. And at the moment, everyone's trying to game that to win those spots. But what's happening is the more we do it, the more far removed your brand is coming from the content. And that's the challenge, because I think it was mentioned earlier by Jayde about understanding culture. What we need to do is understand the sweet spot. At the end of the day, we understand these platforms far greater than everybody else. But we also have a job, is the brands have to tell something, fix something, or change the perception. And we have to find the happy middle here. And right now, how the feeds are working, it's not. What all this narrative on clipping and creative distribution is bringing is they're showing a potential way to bypass this.
Yeah.
And it means that it is a new consideration of how you work with media partners, creators, and other people who set the tone for internet culture every day. And you start to then get yourself back into the feeds of the right people without having to compete in the way that everyone is telling you to do right now. I actually think it's really exciting. I think there's a bit of negativity and connotations around the ethics of the clipping side of things.
Yeah.
But clipping is one element of it. There's the burner and fan accounts. There's so many other ways people are doing and trying to win. And it is still paid media of sorts, but it's understanding how the platforms have changed and giving you a shot at winning. And it's like, I think, aside from the trends, I think what the other guilty part is, we've obsessed with the optimization of the format.
Yeah.
And we forgot about the art of actually distributing the content for more people to see it. And then when we over optimize, we focus on one format, we press publish. And because we over optimize it, we think now it's going to work. Now, those things are still important. But for many people, based on how that feed we mentioned, newsjacking and trends, the chance of all of us getting into some of those more smaller spots in the feed is limiting, but there's a way around it. And I think that's why what the distribution conversation right now is an exciting one to unpack, because I think we can get around and build brands again in a really smart way.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do one more question before we move to, we're going to have a quick little Eric's going to swoop in very quickly. We're going to do a Q&A, but right before that, I want to squeeze in one last one for Jayde, because I think we've discussed like these unicorn roles. We've discussed shoots. We've discussed a lot of things that require, let's say, a ton of work and perhaps like cough overtime, to get these things across the finish line. You've built this personal brand that clearly honors boundaries. And my main question for you is like, how do you reconcile this type of work and then your own sort of fortitude of saying, like I remember you took a vacation recently as a freelancer, like that's unheard of, So break this down for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big, there's a big opportunity to take a vacation when you have multiple streams of income. And I will always preach that, especially in this space. But I think for me, I have really had to draw a line of like what I consider like my personal brand work. And that includes being a creator influencer. And then also the work that I do with my clients. For example, like if you've looked at my last like post in the past 3 months, you'll see that I actually don't talk about my client work very often because I want my clients to know that like what I have going on over there actually has nothing to do with them. And I never want what I'm doing in my like Jayde Powell universe to have an impact on them. Like my biggest fear is literally, some TikTok person being like, that lady on LinkedIn, that purple haired lady on LinkedIn told me that TikTok isn't relevant anymore. And they go tell my clients that. Yeah. And like that's just not something I'm trying to do. But I think as I am kind of growing my personal brand presence, it has required me to get a better sense of like how I position myself for the different opportunities that I get. Sometimes I am showing up as a social strategist. Sometimes I am showing up in these spaces as an entrepreneur, or sometimes I am showing up as a creator. And I just really try to tailor my level of expertise or what I'm speaking on based on the rooms that I am in and who I'm speaking to in those rooms. And then I also find that there's overlap, especially in the spaces that I am in. But it's been interesting because I think one of the things that I've learned recently, realized recently, is I've even had to have a lot more stipulations on like what my content creation work looks like for my clients, because I am a content creator in the sense that I create content for my personal brand, but I'm also a content creator in the sense that I do it as like a marketing creative skill that I offer as a service. I guess we'll call that UGC, but I just call it creating branded content. And even with that, it's like, for example, I was freelancing with Microsoft agency and they were like, hey, can we use your face for a Teams video? And I'm like, yes, I guess. Sure. And it's like, I have to think about like, the implications of that for my personal brand. So there's a little bit of a messy overlap, but I think as I'm getting deeper into the space, I'm trying to find areas where I can like have more distinct boundaries.
Yeah. Well, it's admirable. All right. Christina is swooping in. I do not hear her.
Christina's a boomer. Pass it on. You're on mute.
Still can't hear you, Christina.
Uh-oh.
I realized I'm muted. I said, thanks, everyone. The panelists are coming back on for a question answer period. And now a message from our sponsor.
Okay.
That was
so
thank you, Christina.
Bye.
This social, I'm not on mute, am I? Because that would be embarrassing. Wait, I'm up here alone? Oh, this is awkward. This social club is brought to you by Mustela Diaper Rash Cream, the best diaper rash cream. No, I'm just kidding. This social club is brought to you by Slate. So I'm going to do a quick little overview of Slate, and then we're going to get back to the wonderful guests for Q&A. So please indulge me for a second, because as Nicole said in the comments, you got to pay the bills. Okay. So Slate is the creative home for social teams. So if you don't know what Slate is, I'm about to explain it to you. We talk to social teams every single day. And there's really three pressures on social teams today that we hear of over and over again. One is the volume of content. We talked a lot about that today already, but the demand to produce more and more content, a lot more than normally the team is resourced to supply. Two is brand, right? Like, how do you make social native feeling, but also have a brand through line? And how does that show up in the feeds every single day? And, bring that brand to life that usually like exists as, a PDF. The third is video. It wins on every platform, but it costs the most time and money to create. Sound off in the comments if one of these is your biggest problem. If not, tell us what is. Really, the reason Slate exists is we don't think your team should need a million different apps and to sit in a creative design queue to make your social content. On one side of the spectrum, there's sort of the freemium tools that everybody downloads to make it easier. On the other side, there's the design specific tools. Slate sits in the middle as a tool built for social teams to create your content in a way that's on brand, easy, collaborative with your team. And I'll just show you really quickly how that works, and then we'll get back to the main event here. But Slate is built on your brand. So it's one source of truth for brand creation. So you fill it with all of your brand frameworks, and then you can easily edit content within that one brand. We call it freedom within a framework, so the team can be creative, but all built within your brand fingerprint. So you no longer have to choose between being on brand or native to social. The editing apps themselves are, as easy to use as native social, as CapCut, as Canva, all the things you're used to kind of skirting on the side and just using to do quick edits. You could replace those with one tool that is brand approved, and also a tool that you then can collaborate with your team and get sort of Frame.io like internal feedback. This is something we're actually rolling out right now to be a more collaborative platform and reduce the need for all the different final exports and chasing approvals across, Monday.com and Slack threads and Google Drives and all the different places. Your editing and approvals all live in the same place. And also your media will live in that place as well. Building a dam for social media teams on top of this, where you can find the footage that you need and edit with it when you want. And of course, AI. We have an AI long to short editing tool that helps you identify sort of the clipping stuff that we were just talking about, identify short form moments from long form content and keep the human in control. So that is my spiel. I think Christina put up a link for a demo. Click it if you want to learn more. We'll hop on personally and give you a full demo of the platform. If not, that is all good as well. But thank you for this ad break brought to you by Slate and Mustela Diaper Rash Sprayable Cream, the best diaper rash sprayable cream for your baby.
Wow. That was so good. I'm literally in awe. Okay, so I'm gonna bring our speakers back on. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Slate, click this little thing. Also, if you want to learn more about how teams are using Slate, we have a content power hour happening with the Chicago White Sox. So join our next chat. I also put that link here. It's going to be a fun chat about how the Chicago White Sox team operates and how they use Slate to do so. But let's bring our panels back on. Boom, 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 boom. And we're going to do a question answer period here with all of the lovely questions we got. So we'll put them on screen and then I'll let Carmen facilitate this. So the first question I'm just going to pop on is Shan's question. How important are micro-credentials right now in social? Is it worth going back to school for a short course certificate to boost our education? And if so, what area should we focus on? I'll let Carmen lead the rest.
I mean, I feel like one of you three take it away.
I'm just going to, maybe this is bold, but I'm going to say no. Just go create stuff, make, and produce. Show your work, test it. I don't think you need a course. Like, I would never hire someone right now because they have a bunch of credentials on their LinkedIn page. I want to see their portfolio and what they've actually done on social feeds.
Yeah, I don't think the course exists because, to Katie's point, I think there has to be a practical side of the course in order to prove your ability to execute the work. I would recommend potentially either specific books or podcast episodes from certain people that might make you understand a bit more about marketing and brand building. If you feel that that's a bit of a gap, you understand culture and social, but you want to actually be a better marketeer, there's probably some books out there that might help you a little, or some good podcasts that would help build a little bit more theory that you can practice and play with, like Katie said.
That's a good point. It depends on maybe, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jayde. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I said I completely agree. I think the the best education and practice. So just do it.
I think make an account on one of the platforms. You choose which one. How are you staffing social teams to be responsive? A big thing for us is having capacity to manage busy comment sections in real time with an audience who are most active outside of office hours. Is a shift system the way forward there?
My comment here is all I'll contribute is why. Why are you building a team to be responsive? Is that strategically the right thing for you to do? Or are you just trying to jump in the comment sections and react to internet culture because everybody else is doing it? It may not be needed. We never responded out of hours in our days in Ryanair. We never did it off the clock. We played within our perimeters and we went about our day and touched grass.
Yeah, it's so hard to say. I mean, like I'm trying to imagine, like I'd love to know a little bit more about like what's the brand, what is the urgency? Like if maybe there's like case here for like actually it being what do you call it, like CX, like customer experience or something like that, or if it's like product issues or something that need to be like responded to.
Or if people use the product during that moment in time.
Yeah, when I was working at Delta, we had a dedicated community management team that was focused on the brand side of social and specifically focused, and when I say community management, I mean true community management. And then we had a dedicated customer service team that focused on, facilitating those kind of customer service inquiries. But obviously Delta is an organization at that scale where building a community online was necessary in like their brand development. But even when I'm writing strategies for other brands, I don't always recommend community management because sometimes it's just simply not necessary for the org.
Yeah. Piero, you want to cue us up? Okay. You've said social managers need an MBA for social now. If you're building that syllabus, who's on your must-follow list? This is a really fun activity of me reading out loud. And what's on your must-read shelf? So kind of like, recommendations.
It's less about the individual because there are a lot of really good people who can teach the modules and material. It's actually deciding on what an MBA is for our world, the preaching, the practice, the theory, how we best all come together. And like there's things about financial literacy. I think we've all a big job to go on understanding the finance side of brands and marketing that will help too. Then there's the operational side. Now I know these sound really boring, but they're the things that are going to build the systems that you need to drive it forward and the language that works in those offices. Reads wise, 2 books I would recommend are probably No Bullshit Strategy by Alex Smith and Alchemy by Rory Sutherland, both available on print and audio. I think they're 2 incredible ones to simplify what the fuck strategy is and also to how you can use insight to unlock new ways of thinking that doesn't just follow the category round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any recs from you two, Jayde and Katie?
I was going to say for people to follow, always follow the creators. I love following like social media marketing traditional professionals, but I do feel like creators are great real-time examples of like how to actually execute on social creative. Because I think sometimes marketers get really caught up in like theory and just, the right way to do things, where creators tend to like move a little bit more agilely. And I think that's like the best skill set any social creative can have, honestly.
There's one suggestion, by the way, sorry, quickly, is there's apparently this new LinkedIn top voice. I think her name is Christina Lee. I think apparently she was rewarded top voice today. I think she's definitely to listen to.
I love it. Shout out to Christina.
Yeah, huge shout out to Christina and anyone from Slate. They're all, I think Carmen, you were top voice also. I think on the business side of things though, from my perspective, like what's helped me, at least being at internal organizations, is you have to be honest about what you don't know. And I think then go find somebody who you can kind of confidently and quietly share that with and say like, hey, you really know this part of the business. And this could be someone in a completely different part of the organization. So like they're maybe on growth marketing or they run ops or they're in sales. Like go make friends with people in other departments and ask them about their jobs, ask them what their priorities are, ask them how they measure their own success. I think that can be extremely valuable. And then if you can find a mentor who's even like one level above you in the organization who can help you like develop that business acumen and maybe give you feedback on like be a bit of a coach or mentor to you, I think that is extremely valuable. And then it's like, it doesn't have to be this public thing. And because to be honest, like, yes, we can go follow creators, but like all stuff on social is still a performance to a degree. So I think where you're going to get the real honesty and like actual one-to-one real advice is if you just find somebody to talk to. Yeah, that's my POV.
We have so many other questions, and I really just want to keep this going. But unfortunately, our hour is up. Can we just give a huge shout out to these panelists for being here and dropping some wisdom bombs? So good. Jayde, Michael, Katie, go follow them on LinkedIn. If you ask for resources, they're great resources to follow. They're always sharing more about social, what they're doing. If you want to work with them, feel free to pop them a DM. They are truly so great, and we're so happy to have you guys on the panel. Also want to thank you guys. I'm just going to like take you off cam for a sec as I just do my last few housekeeping things. The giveaway winner, I'm going to shuffle the winner now on my little spinner wheel here. And the winner of the question answer period is Maritza. Sorry, I called that out too early. Maritza, please DM me on LinkedIn and we will facilitate your giveaway. Also, guys, if you want to join us for Carmen's laughing at me. I know how hard it is to run everything on the back end. I'm stressed. I'm sweating.
Girl's looking at like 7 windows right now, and she's doing an amazing job.
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to join our Content Power Hour, I'm putting that on the screen again. We are talking with the Chicago White Sox. So they're going to be talking about their content processes, how they work as a team of 3 and have 168 games a year, and how they manage brainstorming content and thinking of new ideas. So it's going to be such a good conversation. Go register. Click that link. And we also have another social club happening in June with LinkedIn. We are actually talking to some people on the LinkedIn team about LinkedIn, sports, building a personal brand, all that good stuff. So please join that as well. And then as usual, thank you all for joining. If you want to learn more about Slate, here's the other CTA. I just popped out 3 links that you can click.
The people at LinkedIn said they were going to share some secret sauce. So I feel like that's a pretty good teaser.
For the LinkedIn one specifically, here, let me pop that up again. For the LinkedIn one specifically, they're going to share some secrets, apparently. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Slate, everybody, this is the link to click. We'd love to chat with you about how it could work for your team. Thanks for joining us as usual, and have a really wonderful day. And we'll see you all next month. Bye.